I'm going to move forward to our next speaker, who is one sharp lady, no pun intended. Her name is Sharon Myers, and she is joining us from the 14760, known as Olean. And I'd like to give you a little background on Sharon. Sharon is the content marketing manager at Cutco. She leads a strategic and branded marketing approach focused on crafting and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content across all platforms. That was a mouthful. I'd also like to read the rest of her bio, but there's some big words in there, and I do not think that I could get through it all. So, needless to say, her job is super easy and it's always fun. I would say that that is not true. I think it is a very hard job. I actually have learned more about branding and logos and why things matter. And it's important to everyone. I never knew why it was so important. So I think that Sharon puts a little fun in everything that she does. And I know Steve Porzik is very happy to have her there and probably could not do this without her. If we're lucky, we might have some Q&A time where we might have our vice president and director of marketing, Steve Porzik, join us. Steve's been with us for over 35 years. I had the pleasure of working with him 17 years ago in New Jersey before he left me for Olean. And I was pleased to learn how to spell his name without looking at his nameplate. So, I mean, it's a real accomplishment. And needless to say, I would like to move forward with Miss Sharon Myers. Please take it away.
Thanks, Loretta. I don't know how I live up to that. Oh boy. Okay, so I am assuming I can share my screen. We will hope technology is favorable. There we go. Hopefully, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yay, love it. Okay, so I have the honor of talking to you all about social media, but I'm not going to sit here and talk about how what you should do on social media, etc. You guys all know how to use social media. You're using it now. You're savvy in that regard. But what I do want to speak to is social media as it pertains to brand reputation. And Loretta kind of hinted about that with the brand, but how we can use social media to enhance our brand reputation. So to start, if we look at what brand reputation, what brand means in general, brand is definitely more than a logo. Logo is absolutely part of it, but it's about who we are, what we stand for, and what one-of-a-kind product we offer. And we build that brand by living up to our promise every single time a potential customer comes in contact with our name, our message, and our business. So think about that for a second. Every time a potential customer comes in contact with us, in all the different ways they come in contact with us. And what we want to offer them is a premium brand, but one that's also approachable. So when we're looking at how we put our brand out there, we want it to be premium to represent the product that we offer and approachable so they know, hey, Cutco's family, I get what they're about. And a brand helps customers form a bond. And you all know this better than everyone. That's what you do every day with your customers. You build relationships. And our customers are more likely to care about Cutco when they know that each time they interact with Cutco, they get that consistent experience. And consistency is key. So if we look at how, okay, great, this is kind of that introduction to what we're talking about with brand reputation. Where does social media fit in that? Well, one, it builds awareness. When you're using social media, you're building awareness on the Cutco brand, who we are. You communicate knowledge. That's partially talking about, hey, these are the knives, what you can use them for, a recipe, etc. Showing authenticity. By that, I mean being authentically Cutco and letting them know that it is, in fact, this is Cutco, the real stuff. Encouraging engagement. Social media is all about engagement. Growing your audience. We all want our audiences to grow through social media. Providing support. When customers have questions and they can come to you on social media, we're finding this from the corporate perspective that they're coming more and more to social media to get support. How do I sharpen my knives? What can I do with this, etc. So social media is that instantaneous response. And this all leads to building positive brand reputation. Now, what you'll see in this list about social media is we haven't referred to sales actually. So how we view social media is that it is for building that engagement and building that brand reputation rather than sales. You use your rep portal to sell. Let me give an example of how social media can impact brand here. We all know our new reps, they come on board, they're enthusiastic, they're excited, and they live in that social media world based on the age that they're at. So they go on and do things in social media that are not exactly allowed and end up harming a relationship with a customer of yours that you've spent years cultivating. So that's an example of how social media can work for us and work against us. So we want to ensure that social media is enhancing our brand reputation. So let's kind of narrow this down. It helps for me when I look at Cutco and our social media, just to give you an idea of how much impact we have out there. So our Cutco corporate account, when I say Cutco corporate, that's at Cutco Cutlery. We have that on Facebook. We have it on Pinterest. We have it on Twitter. We have it on Instagram, etc. That's one account. That's our corporate account. Cutco Kitchen, our stores, we actually have 14 of them, and they are on Facebook. They don't do a lot of posting. A lot of stuff they do is share our content, and additionally, they will post to their kitchen parties, etc. But there's 14 Facebook accounts. And then we get to our independent Cutco sales representatives, and I've put thousands plus, 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 plus. I don't even want to know how many different accounts are out there on social media that are representing Cutco as a brand. So when you start to think about it from that perspective and remembering that every experience with Cutco needs to be consistent, we're all in this together, linked by the Cutco brand. So the action of one impacts us all. It's why we talk about this brand consistency. Every interaction with the customer can either detract or hopefully reinforce the brand. And if that brand isn't strong and clear, that doesn't help us. The reverse of that, when we are very consistent in promoting our brand on social media, that should actually make your jobs easier. You're not having to talk about what Cutco is. You get to talk about the product and its uses, etc. You don't have to sell them on the brand. They know what it is. So this is how our customers experience Cutco on social, and look at all the different ways that they can experience us. Which leads to our favorite topic. Probably didn't even have to say that. Compliance. Yes, compliance exists. And when I say that word, the connotation that normally comes up is the compliance police. Do not make me use my compliance person voice. This is not how we want to look at compliance. You know, it suggests conformity, it suggests an or else mindset, that negative connotation, but we actually get to compliance through brand leadership. And what I mean by that is when we all embrace the brand and understand why it's so important, we inherently want to protect it. And by protecting it, that is what compliance means. So I don't know how many of you know, we have a compliance department. So there are a group of folks that are working in compliance, and their role is to protect the integrity of the business, protect the brand, and equally protect you. That's their three main provisions, and those can all be done through this group. They are very much a resource for you. They are the keepers of the trademark, copyright, web use, and social network policies, what we lovingly refer to as the social media guidelines. They are the folks you go to when you need imagery for print and or email usage and you need corporate imagery. They are the folks that you go to approve your marketing materials when you're using Cutco provided imagery. And I will tell you, their approval process is fantastic. They promise 48 hours or less. A lot of times it is less. So, that turnaround is very quick. And they're there to answer questions. I would say with this compliance department, don't look at them from the negative connotation, look at them as that resource and that go-to for when you have questions. And if you recall, we talked about protecting the brand, protecting you. One of the things that they do is they do monitor and scan social media. They're looking for folks to make sure that we're all following the guidelines so that we can be consistent, protecting that brand, protecting you, so that we maintain a level playing field for all. That's what we want to get to. We're trying to keep this level for all and fair from the competition standpoint. So I kind of refer to this trademark, copyright, web use, and social network policies. I like to use the full name of the document because it is so much more than social media. But I will refer to it as the social media guidelines for purposes of not having to repeat that statement. Where you can find them, if you don't know, they are on Vector Connect. In the social media center, there is a top left red button. So if you go into the social media center, you have the social media guidelines in this left hand in the red. You also have a social media image library that we'll refer to in a moment. What you'll find, and hopefully you have all read these guidelines, you've memorized them from top to bottom, you know them backwards and forwards. But if you didn't, what they entail is essentially this grouping. So we talk about your title and identification, how you identify yourself, the Cutco Corporation owned intellectual property usage, advertising and why we don't allow that, conducting your business online, personal web address. We then do move into the social networking and then specifically delve into Facebook pages, Instagram guidelines, digital media submission, if you establish a personal blog, and then move into the big picture. And this explains the whys behind some of the stuff that is in that guide, as well as tips for images and content when you need them. We do delve into policy enforcement and then some additional guidelines at the end. I'm not going to go over every single point of this. Those are in the guidelines, but it gives you an idea of what to expect from that document. And what I will say is that this is a living and breathing document, meaning we're not covering every single possible scenario or every example in the guidelines. It is kind of meant from that 10,000-foot view of, hey, here's generally what we're asking you to do. Because as we all know, especially in social media, platforms change, new platforms come up. What we're trying to say is, look, here are the general use guidelines. This applies to everything to give you some guidance on how we should be using and what you can and can't do. So living and breathing document, that is absolutely vital, and it does get changed. We will update it on Vector Connect as new things become available, especially in the social media. What I do want to focus on is kind of in the Facebook, Instagram, that social networking area of it, the do's and the don'ts. But more importantly, I want to address the why. I think that's the most important part about these guidelines, is to understand the why we're saying, hey, don't do this or do this. We're not trying to make your lives difficult. We actually want to be a partner, want to be a resource. So the guidelines are there for that purpose. So let's go over just some of the kind of the highlights from that. Use social media to engage with customers. Use your rep portal to sell. Social is all about engagement. That's where you have the conversations. That's where you get to know your customers and you send them to your rep portal to sell, where all the assets are that you need, all of the product pages, the learning center, your specific deals, etc. So use social media to engage. We do ask that Cutco not appear in your handle on any social media platform. That's the URL. So we talk about facebook.com, Knife Guy Joe is okay, whereas facebook.com, Cutco Joe is not. Well, why? Using the Cutco name implies that you are the company or you are employed by the company. And in no way do we want you to be representing Cutco Corporate in that way. Not because you're not great people, you are. It's just that independent status versus the Cutco Corporate. And additionally, when a customer searches on Cutco on a social platform, they should be directed to one of the Cutco Corporate social pages, ensuring that there's correct brand representation. If others are using Cutco in their URL, which is a trademark name, it creates brand confusion. Imagine when you put into Facebook Cutco and there's 300 different pages that come up. That's a lot of brand confusion, and which one is the correct Cutco? Is it Cutco, etc. So that's why we ask that. We also ask that everyone identifies as independent, whatever the title is, Cutco sales professional, etc., on all social media platforms. And again, that just keeps that clarity of independent contractor status. We do ask reps to not comment on Cutco corporate posts trying to set up a demo or to sell product. And we also ask that reps don't private message customers from our corporate page who have commented on a post with a sales pitch. And this is not necessarily for you. You guys don't do this, but think about the new reps that come into the business. They live on social media. One of the first things they'll do is that they will go to our corporate pages, our customers comment, they reach out to them or send them a private DM. So if you're mentoring folks or if you're managing new reps in the business, this is something we'd ask your help for. To get across, because here's the why behind this, is that our corporate accounts are meant to engage. We don't sell on the corporate account. And so folks are there for the conversation. And what happens is we get private messages every single week. And every single day, I can tell you, we get a rep commenting. And we'll have a private message from a customer saying, I comment on your post and I got 20 different reps who private messaged me trying to sell. That's not a premium experience. We don't want the customer to have that. And the problem is we do try to chase those down, but as you can well imagine, they've deleted them or they don't want to share who it is, etc. And they get frustrated. So what ends up happening? They stop commenting on our posts. This happens every week, every weekend. So, if we can get your help on this to spread this message, that would be a huge benefit because we want a premium brand experience, and that's definitely not it. We also ask folks to use the appropriate rep specific logos on Vector Connect under sales tools. Using that correct logo, it's clear that you're an independent sales representative. So that's the reason we ask for that. Additional do's and don'ts in the why. So images on our Cutco website, lit sheets, social media accounts, in the catalog, etc. They are owned by Cutco under copyright. And so copy and pasting Cutco images to your social media accounts or any other use of those images are strictly prohibited. The why behind that is any content that corporate produces, which includes photography, is the company's intellectual property, and it has to be protected. So imagine if every representative copied and pasted images from either our social media platforms or from our website to use on their accounts. Corporate can be accused of not protecting the brand by copyright officials, therefore losing that copyright protection, which means anyone could use our imagery. And that could irrevocably damage the brand, hurting both corporate and all of you. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to protect the brand overall. Additionally, each social media platform assumes that when you post an image to their site that you own that image and you own the rights to that image. Well, the only entity that owns the rights to Cutco images is, of course, Cutco corporate. So that's another thing we have to avoid. Finally, when we do imagery on our website or in other mediums, they are shot and put in a resolution specific for that intended purpose. So when it's copied, resolution is lost, etc. And again, it's not that premium brand experience. We want the images that we use to reflect the premium nature of the brand. So the copy and pasting absolutely differs from that, or detracts from that, I should say. So that is another reason why we ask for the non-copying of imagery. Another point is we do have images that you can request through compliance. Or if you work with an approved vendor, they can access our corporate imagery to be used only for an approved project, meaning when you request an image through corporate, it is used for a specific project, and then it has to go through compliance for that final approval for each use of the image. So if you request one image for use, that doesn't mean you can use it 20 different ways without approval on those 20 different ways. Those images are still owned by Cutco, and they then can't be used in social media or in other non-approved marketing projects. So, this goes back to the concept of our corporate photography being owned by Cutco. So it has to get approved for each project that it's used for, just so we know how they're being used. And if you're using an outside vendor and you're paying a vendor to produce your marketing materials and they request imagery from corporate, and then they turn the marketing piece over to you, you still don't own the photo. You paid for the design work and you have that and you own that, but the photo is still owned by Cutco corporate. So everyone has to still abide by the usage guidelines, meaning that piece doesn't end up on social media. None of the imagery that is requested through corporate for print or email pieces can be used in social media. The only images for use on social media are those that are found in the social media image library, or you have the option to take your own imagery. But for social media, it's the social media image library or your own photos. That's all that's allowed for use on social media, not the corporate produced imagery that's requested for other projects. And finally, paid advertising on social platforms is prohibited, as is posting to Facebook Marketplace, Facebook IG, Commerce Shop, or other public buy and sell groups. And why is this? Quite simply, this allows for a fair and equitable market opportunity for all representatives. Think about a potential customer. If they're in a targeted area, they could receive unlimited ads from different reps with different pricing, different offers, and that implies Cutco being a discount brand. Again, it's not a premium experience. If you look at even advertising the sales and service events, that gets into overriding active rep of record. Okay. You go to your customers, that's who you're selling to. Advertising is this broad spectrum that everyone is included. So we want to avoid that because we want that fair and equitable market opportunity for everyone. The final point of this is think about, again, a customer receiving all these different ads. They're not consistent in how they look, what they're saying, etc. So once again, we have brand inconsistency and we want to maintain our brand identity. So if we look at resources, if those are some of the do's and don'ts, we do want to offer you resources that help you in what you do. First and foremost, and I mentioned this, the compliance department, please view them as a resource. They're incredibly knowledgeable. They can help you. They can give you guidance. They're always available. You can email them at compliance@cutco.com. They're a lovely group of people, I promise you. You also have the trademark copyright web use and social network policies. This is why we call it the social media guidelines. That is a great guide to give you that, strong overview of, look, this is what we have, this is what we allow, here are things you can do. Social media image library, I did refer to this. That is on Vector Connect in that same area of where the guidelines are. We have over 300 photos uploaded to that are shot specifically for Facebook, Facebook cover imagery, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, etc. We will look to add to that as much as we can. We want to make sure all the products are represented and that you can use those images for social media. You can also share from the corporate social account. This is a great way. If you're trying to promote the trimmer, you can either use a product page and promote it that way, or we have on our social media account, we post every single day on Facebook. Tuesdays is usually a how-to or a recipe. Thursday is a recipe. We have Cutco stories from customers who love their Cutco. Those are great things to share to your Facebook page. Just use the share button, put your own header on it, your own, actual post guideline on it, and it comes up and you've got great content. So that helps you populate your Facebook account. Instagram, you can share on Instagram using the repost for Instagram app. And there's instructions on how to do that, again, in the social media center of Vector Connect. You can share from the Learning Center. If you've been on our Learning Center, there is a ton of information there. Again, recipes, how-tos, kitchen tips, product care, product videos, all of those are shareable. Best part about both of these is when you share them, an instant social media image comes up. So you already have a high quality within the brand guidelines image that comes up, but it just shows that it's been shared. And the final part about this, as I know concern-wise, sharing from our website, you have people come to our website, not to your rep portal. You actually have within your portal a unique URL generator. So what you can do, use the example from a product page, say you want to display the chef knife. You can copy the URL from the chef knife product page, put it into this URL generator, personalize it, and then paste that onto Facebook. It's going to, again, generate an automatic brand approved social image, but when people click on it, they go directly to your portal. So it takes them to your portal, which is where you want them to land because you're using your portal to sell. So that is a great way to share as well and get people moving from social to your rep portal. So hopefully this was a helpful overview of where social media fits in the landscape of brand. As I said, you all use social media. We want to encourage you to do that. We just ask your help in maintaining our brand, because in our view, social media absolutely equals brand reputation. Brand is everything we say, everything we do, and that couldn't apply more to what we do on social media. So I guess at this point, looks like we have time, Loretta, that we can do questions.
Yeah, I just went to hit unmute and I was ready to shut my computer off, which would not have been great. So before we do that too, I just wanted to ask Steve, is there anything else that you would want to add to that before we got into any Q&A? Or, I mean, I think Sharon, you did a great job. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So yeah, I would. So again, kudos to Sharon. Fantastic job. And hopefully that was helpful in understanding a little more of the rationale behind some of these decisions that have been made. And I hope that you understand that the decisions we made here are really to protect everybody, as Sharon mentioned. And this is not for us to bring down the corporate hammer, but it's really to just make sure that, boy, every time somebody has an interaction with Cutco, that's a very positive experience. And as she said, you've taken so much time to build up your reputation with your customers that, we don't want an incident by a rep that's not following the rules to damage that relationship. And we want to just make sure that, again, we're here to help. We've got a lot of resources. As she mentioned, there's over 300 photos that are available in the image library that you can use for social efforts. So please, if you have questions, reach out. And I guess we do have, I guess we've got about 10 minutes, Loretta, if we want to go. I don't know how we're doing that, if they're putting them in the chat or how that's going to happen, but I'll turn that back over to you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was just in the middle of texting Josh and asking Josh if he's seeing any questions come through, or, there's a whole village behind here.
Yeah. So guys, if I could step in for a second. So there is no chat. So there is no questions that have come in yet. But if anybody does have any questions that they do want to ask Sharon or Steve, go ahead and put them into the question and answer box. They come behind the scenes here to our panelists, and we'll be able to read them to Steve and Sharon. So one question that it looks like it did come in was where the portal link generator was.
Yep, absolutely. So I would love to read you that address. You will never get it. Easiest way to get it is to go to the social media guidelines. On page 10, the third bullet down, it walks you through the exact process of how you get that URL generator. So there's an actual link there that you can click on. You enter your rep number, the copied URL from the product page that you want to display and direct the customer to, and this generates that unique URL that you then just copy and put into Facebook. So the instructions are right there, page 10 of the guidelines, third bullet down with the link to the unique URL generator.
Thank you, Sharon. So I see that we have a hand raised by Sylvania Goldenberg. Sylvania, would you mind typing that into the Q&A? Again, we're doing a webinar and not a Zoom meeting, so we, are focusing on the speakers and the panelists. So be able to go ahead and get the questions and answers. We're utilizing the question box instead of a chat box, which most of you might be accustomed to.
While we are waiting, I did get a question from someone, and they were asking me, what are the consequences if somebody is caught doing something like this? Like, what is the first step? Is it kindly please stop doing that? Like, how do you approach that?
I'm looking to see if Steve is.
Well, I'll take a crack at that. I guess it depends on what the violation is. Okay, so a lot of times, like Sharon mentioned, that first weekend, brand new representatives, they're just so excited. And we know that that's the world they live in. And they go and they comment or they post something. We send a nice little email to them. And half the time they're so apologetic and they didn't even know what they were doing was wrong. And so in most of those cases, that's a one and done first time. And they are so terrified that they're 3 days on the job and they broke the rules and they're just so terrified. And in those situations, it's everything's fine. We do have repeat offenders, obviously. In that scenario, we get multiple requests that we ask to stop. And if they do not, we usually involve the division manager, the region manager. And in some cases, we've had our presidents get involved. And unfortunately, if it continues, termination is an option. We've only had to do that a few times to my knowledge, but that is on the table. If somebody continues to disregard, the powers that be above them in their office in their region.
Thank you very much. Dave, did the other question come through, or?
Yeah, I have not seen Sylvania's question yet, Lorette. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Well, you know what? As we are working here, just keep sending your questions. Like we said, if something pops up that you want to ask, just put that in the Q&A box, and we will ask Steve and Sharon to answer those after our event is over. So we'll make sure that we get those questions answered, regardless of it being live right now. So Anyway, thank you very much, Oli and
Well,
Pete, for
well, Laura,
joining
hold on,
us.
just a quick second, Laura. We did get one that comes in, so let's just see if we can get this one answered by Steve or Sharon, please. Anthony, obviously we can't sell online, but is it okay to post specials on business pages or groups with our personal customers? For an example, a % off or special pricing. Also, love the bow tie, Steve.
Sharon, I'll let you handle the first part of that. And I'll take the second half there. So.
Okay, so the first part is it okay to post specials on business pages, groups with our personal customers? If that group is a private group that is your customers, then yes, you can promote your specials. The problem becomes when you are on your public page and you promote discounts or free, if you buy this amount, you'll get free whatever. The problem is that's where we get into the discount brand, because if someone's just searching and they're searching Cutco, they come across your page, what they're going to start to do is look for Cutco independent representatives and who's going to give me the best deal. And that's not what we want, because that discounts our brand. So if it's a private group that is built off of your customers, yes, you can absolutely promote what you do and then direct them to the rep portal to actually sell. Public, no.
And I would just add to that, it would be nice if every once in a while, if you posted something to that private group of yours, some real valuable content, some value added. So as Sharon mentioned, that learning center, you went ahead and said, hey, here's a great recipe, or here's a cool knife trick, or a knife know-how or a tip. So now every time that they see your post there, it's not, hey, they're just trying to sell me something. You're actually giving them some value-added content, building that relationship, staying top of mind with your customers and the people that are on your private list. And so that way you kind of say, hey, they're there to help me, and they want to have a stronger relationship and bond with you and the products.
Great. Thanks.
And you're welcome on the bow tie comment, Anthony. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Loretta, back to you.